house with little.
So, I don't know about you guys, but I tend to feel really sad when I read books about people that have these great relationships with their parents. And so there was one on an Oprah book list about a woman who dealt with a lot of insecurities and stuff, but she had this wonderful relationship with her parents. And I read a little bit of it, and I just got so depressed. That's so sad. Oh, let me start by saying this video is in response to, I want to share something with you. I got this fun little email from my mother. I'm thinking of you and still crying with you over the loss of our precious Noah, love, Mom. I have responded to this. I haven't sent the reply. You can see, I don't know if you can see this or not, this response is like pages and pages long. I'm never sending all this. There's no way. I basically just had to like get it all out onto this page and then backtrack and figure out what I'm going to actually say to her. I mean, I need to say to her basic things like, you're not with me. Crying with you over the loss of our precious Noah. Our precious Noah was 20 years old. We've been estranged for 15 years. My mother is, my parents are in their 70s now. Yeah, in their 70s now. And, I don't know if they're expecting me to pretend that this is true. And this is not the first email she sent. She sent about 3 or 4 of these very cryptic, never more than 2 or 3 sentences, and they're real hit and miss. Like, the first one was actually pretty okay. The next one I remember was really inappropriate and really made me really didn't like it at all. And then there was this one. So I know that I'm not going to change my 75-year-old mother. I'm not going to change her. But at the same time, I have to honor the truth. What does she expect me to say here? Thanks, Mom. Because the truth of it is that it would be wonderful to have a supportive mother. But the fact of it is, I don't even believe that we would be here right now, that my son would even be gone right now if we had a loving family. I definitely believe that the breakdown of the family, the abuse that he endured with his sociopathic father, and the lack of protection and community and belonging that he had in his narcissistic family is the reason that he's gone. I mean, that drove him to drugs, and the drugs are the reason he's gone. Depression and the insecurity and the anxiety and all that stuff came well before the drugs. The drugs were self-medication. I'm not making excuses for him. Obviously, like I've said in other videos, the drugs that he was doing is ultimately what killed him. But like I said, the jury's in, right? I mean, all these kids that my friends' kids, my niece and nephews, they're all young adults now. So the jury's in. We get to see how it all worked out. The experiment, the grand experiment, on raising kids. I didn't get to give my kids the childhood that I wanted to, or that I thought that I was going to. What I ended up giving them was the very best that I could do, given the circumstances. But the circumstances were pretty bad. The circumstances were that they had a completely disordered family, and that the only consistent unconditional love that they had was from me. I didn't know that. I didn't know that was going to be the case. I thought that I thought that we were going to have unconditional love all around us. It's when I moved here. So I've spent the last 15 years just trying to overcome the circumstances that I was left in and do it all completely alone while my kids were embroiled in constant conflict, which I wasn't even that much a part of, because they would have to hear it. I didn't, because they saw their family, and whenever they saw their family, I wasn't included, and they would have to listen to, gossip and things about me, which was all untrue. But it was just, a constant feeling of, that you just, there was no connection and belonging, and it was just unhealthy. I mean, they were just around deluded people, and, there was no role model. I mean, the men, I thought that if I ever got divorced, my father and brother and my friend that I put as his godfather, these people would come up to the plate. They would be there anyway. They would be there to, nobody's perfect. It is even without knowing that I was marrying a sociopath. Just when I thought that I was marrying a guy, I thought he's going to have flaws. He's not going to be the whole package. I need to have these other role models in my son's life to, give him a full rounded, idea that he can belong and be all these different kinds of things and have all these different strengths from all these different people. That's what I thought. Instead, what he had all these different ways of being a failure. He had the sociopathic abuser. He had the narcissistic father that was an abuser, the narcissistic brother that was let down, the narcissistic childhood friend that just abandoned and walked out on me and my kids. So that's what they got to see. And so my kids grew up as, isolated, black sheep. They were, my offspring, and I was the black sheep. We were the excluded ones, My brother's kids grew up in the exact same family. They had their mother's side to it, but basically the exact same family. And the difference is enormous because they didn't have a sociopathic father. For one, they had a narcissistic father, but I was the target. So it was just a completely different situation. They have no idea what their family's capable of. They have no idea what their mother and father have done to us, to me. No idea at all. My niece and nephew, the biggest thing in their life is that their dad had an affair and their parents got divorced. That's the big drama in their life. And it was, easy divorce because my brother was feeling guilty for what he did, so he just, gave it all away, walked away, I think. No, there's more to it than all that, but they don't know it. It's like there's significance and who knows if they ever will. Obviously they have narcissistic parents, they have a narcissistic extended family, and it very well may turn them into narcissists themselves. I don't know. So far they don't seem like it. So far they seem like really nice kids and stuff like that, but it's real early to know. They're certainly not going to know the difference between my sons and my brother's kids. There's no comparison. No comparison. My sons, much older, they seemed much more traumatized. They were also interesting. They were edgier guys. They were a little dark, artistic, and creative, and there were definitely some upsides, and I was looking forward to what that was going to turn into. If there had been time, it was going to mature into something great. But there wasn't time. He was doing a really deadly drug. It was Russian roulette with that drug he was doing. So he didn't have time. His brother and I are still here, and we're different. We're different than the rest of the family, and being with my niece and nephew it's a bittersweet thing because I'm there with them, but I don't know them, and they wouldn't relate to me. I looked at my son, and I know he felt lonely in their presence because their experience, our experience in our family is completely invalidated. There's no validation for what we've gone through. You can see it in my mother's email. It was just, there's no validation for what the reality of what our experience was. None at all. I understand that she has gone to such a great extent. She's gone to such a huge effort to not hear what I would say in a response, to not hear the truth, to not even hear anything to suggest that there was a mistake made at all, which of course is what I'm going to say, because there's no point in not. At this point, what do I have to lose? My kids are grown up. My one son has passed away. Anything that there was for me to have tried, been trying to save is, that's long past, and I was very careful to not, just to keep to myself and not say anything too much and not ask anything too much. And for 15 years, and all that's happened is that the estrangement continued and the insanity continued.